In the Australian media, there's an unwritten rule that you don't mention the skin colour of somebody, unless of course it meets certain other unwritten rules. For example, in 2020, the taxpayer-funded ABC, who are purportedly against racism, reported, "Will the death of George Floyd at the hands of white police officer Derek Chauvin mark a turning point in the US?" Well, apparently that's okay to refer to the police officer as white. Race baiting at its best, right? From that point onwards, the anti-white floodgates were open. Death of a black man at the hands of white police. In 2021, 3 white men found guilty of killing unarmed black man. 2022, white man's justice letting Indigenous people down. 6 white men sole recipients of honorary doctorates. White man got no dreaming, the AFL's racism problem. You showed us how to live in the white man's world. Am I a race traitor for dating white people? But even in this article about sexual violence from a couple of days ago, they just can't help themselves. We can see who holds power in our societies, often particularly white men. Anyway, I think you get the idea, remembering this is supposed to be an unbiased news broadcaster funded by all Australian taxpayers. Clearly, the ABC need to be either completely restructured or dismantled. What they're doing is not morally right. Actually, it's just out-and-out racism, is it not? And that brings us to Alice Springs, the 3rd largest settlement in Australia's Northern Territory. In recent years, it has been plagued by violence and other crimes. 2021, Alice Springs crime spree, town under siege as at least 25 homes and businesses robbed over weekend. 2022, Alice Springs crime crisis scaring off visitors. Last year, Alice Springs Mayor calls for federal police, Australian Defence Force assistance amid crime crisis. Yes, it's got so bad in this little town that the mayor has been asking for the army to be called in. Crime rates continue to rise in the Northern Territory. An elderly woman hit in the face with a rock. An aggravated robbery on a public bus. 8 children joyriding through the streets of Alice Springs. That was late last year. You'd think this year things can't get much worse for this small community. But it does. In May this year, fears of new Alice Springs crime wave as children start using meth. Widespread alcohol addiction has frayed the social fabric of Alice Springs. Nah, forget alcohol. The kids have started using meth. Look, I don't mean to joke here. This is obviously a serious issue. But while the ABC seem to think it's okay to label Derek Chauvin a white police officer, or they're happy to refer to honorary doctorates as 6 white men, for whatever reason, they refuse to give a detailed description of the people committing copious amounts of crime in Alice Springs. For example, just a few days ago, 4 off-duty police officers, 3 women and 1 man, were approached from behind by a gang of roughly 20 youths and were bashed and robbed. The police minister said it had been a horror 72 hours, with another police officer being run over outside a bottle shop and a stabbing occurring in the CBD. The government had no other option but to essentially lock down the town for 3 nights. Although this small outback town has essentially become a war zone, the media refused to mention who was committing the violence. We all know who is committing the violence. There's not one Australian who isn't aware who's responsible. But as I said, there's an unwritten rule in the media that you're not allowed to say it. So much for truth-telling. According to Reconciliation Australia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have long called for a comprehensive process of truth-telling. Well, I think we need to start here and start calling out what's going on in Alice Springs. The ABC will simply not comment on who commits the violence. In this article, for example, they're happy to refer to the perpetrators as youths. Actually, the only mention of ethnicity is at the end of the article. We acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first Australians and traditional custodians of the lands where we live, learn and work. And it's not like the ABC are afraid to mention Aboriginal Australians. For example, in this article about a boy being beaten in a police watch house in Brisbane, they explicitly state, CCTV shows an Indigenous teen being beaten in a police watch house. So they don't mind referring to people as Indigenous when they're the victim, but when they're perpetrating the violence, suddenly all we hear is crickets. When I searched the ABC for a reason for all this violence in Alice Springs, the first thing that popped up was entertainment needed in Alice Springs to prevent youth violence. Okay. But another one I found rather amusing. Alice Springs young people say lack of affordable housing a driver behind youth crime spike. A lack of affordable housing? Oh, that's right. A couple of years ago, when I was having trouble finding a house to live, I decided to go out and throw a rock at an old woman's face and run over a police officer in a stolen car. Obviously, that's not what happened, but that's what's happening in Alice Springs. And where's our Commander-in-Chief, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese? Where's the Minister for Indigenous Australians, Linda Burney? Apparently, the PM visited earlier this year in April, although it doesn't seem like anybody has any confidence in him solving this issue. Shadow Indigenous Affairs Minister Senator Jacinta Price has accused Labor for being utterly removed from issues in Alice Springs. Indigenous advocate Warren Mundine has called on Indigenous Minister Linda Burney to resign after remaining silent on the issue for days. Look, I don't know how to solve this, but we don't solve this by pretending we don't know who the perpetrators are. The ABC are clearly willing to pick on white people, but suddenly keep silent when anybody else is committing the crime. That's not right, no matter how you look at it.